Yeah, time to give you another view on the markets and the metals markets especially. There's actually a lot of good news coming in for the end of the year, so that's been raising up the markets. Like I remember just this last Friday, I was talking about they were expecting that the jobs report was going to look bad. That's why the metals were moving down on Thursday night and everything was moving down. And, I don't know, like, I think there's partly manipulation, but, also it's these leverage instruments. It's like somebody has, hey, the news is going to be bad, the news is going to be good, or whatever it is. They'll jump into these funds with leverage, and it can move the price farther than it should normally, if you get my drift on that. Just because, the gamblers all come in there and they jump all on one side. It's not necessarily, it's be an unpopular statement, but it's not necessarily J.P. Morgan doing something. Could be, but it's other factors. It's other factors, just the fact in the modern world that people can all jump on one side of the bandwagon pretty easily with a click of a button. So if news comes out bad or good, things can move one way or the other quicker than they should because of leveraged instruments. So just want to leave you with that a little bit too, because I don't know exactly how much. I think things are manipulated to a point because the mines aren't making money. I know that. So, that's a simple common sense way to figure that things must be pushed down too much because an essential commodity that is used throughout the world and has all these different uses, the mines aren't making that much money. There's some kind of manipulation going on. Yeah, I agree. Now, for the end of the year, the jobs report looked better. That's coming in. Also, China's got better numbers coming in. But I'm going to tell you this deal with China. They expected China to actually have nicer numbers coming in. I think Jim Rogers or somebody was talking about that. And basically, it's something just to make themselves. They always do this at the end of the year. Make everything look as rosy as possible for the investors. What else is new, right? So the whole nation, the Chinese central planners, making everything look as good as possible. So that's also a reason. And then Super Mario, they call him Super Mario from Italy, just resigned. But it wasn't like it was a smoother resignation. He was blaming it like he didn't lose face. He blamed it on Berlusconi's lack of cooperation with, getting together to make, amends needed for fiscal responsibility and all this type of stuff. And then Greece still looks like things are going decent enough that there isn't going to be a catastrophic problem coming up near future. So as things go along, we might have a pretty strong finish for the end of the year in general in the markets. Now I'm going to go a couple other things. This is a guy on Goldman Sachs. His name is Damien Corvalin, I guess it is. Corvalin, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Goldman Sachs commodity analyst Damien Corvalin is calling for the end of the great gold bull market next year, in other words in 2013, based on the fact that real interest rates, in other words the rates you can get dividends for, like if you own some equities, are finally going to start heading higher. And that is because the economy is going to get better. In other words, top economist John Heitzius sees for the first time since the financial crisis the economy is accelerating in the second half of 2013. Now, this goes at total odds with what Jim Rogers says and Mark Farber. Mark Farber is more than 25% invested in physical gold. And, well, I don't want to say I don't trust his Damien or whatever the hell it is. Maybe it's his honest opinion or not, but I think it's a wrong opinion. It's amazing, if you want to look for financial information, you could find any type of financial information, and there's a whole set of statistics, reasons, charts, graphs, and everything else backing it up for opposite conclusions or any conclusion you want. So, let the buyer beware, but also the one thing I always say is to use a hell of a lot of common sense. And just some common sense as to why gold is going to go up. A weaker U.S. dollar. This fiscal cliff is going to bode bad for the dollar. It's going to bode bad for the bond market and everything else. Nobody's going to want to go in the dollar as a safe haven as much when they're keep raising the debt ceiling to astronomical new higher and higher levels. Central banks are buying gold. So if it's a loser, why are they buying gold? You know, ETF demand. Of course, investors are still pouring in it. Coin sales. Coin sales are going through the roof. They're blasting away. And it's also going to be a recovery in Indian demand on top of the steady China demand that's keep on going and Russian demand. So, I don't know. Goldman Sachs is saying this stuff, and I'm thinking, I don't know, man. That's really crazy, to tell you the truth. But the way I look at it, cold, hard reality is going to come about. Either one of them is going to be right and somebody's going to be wrong. And it's going to be just like making an angel in the snow in a bikini or something. You're going to wake up to the fact that I got this wrong because I'm feeling, is snow cold or is it warm? Is this beach sand or is this snow? And they're just making these calls about gold going way down and all this type of stuff. Nope, I don't think that's the case at all. It's amazing. But that's what's going on. So today looks like things are pretty steady. I want to talk a little bit about palladium because palladium, it's an interesting metal because, I think this is where people really missing the boat with palladium. I think it was started to be mined up in Norilsk mines in Russia, northern Siberia in the 1930s. There really wasn't any big industrial use for it until they came out with the catalytic converters for the cars in the 1970s. So all the way from the 1930s to the 1970s, they were stockpiling the hell out of this stuff. And they probably were stockpiling in the 70s until, more and more catalytic converters are using palladium, right? Until it really came on board. Now, there's a future use for it. It's not just palladium is used for catalytic converters, but it's also used in hydrogen production, hydrogen purification, and hydrogen storage cells, which is going to be probably one of the major fuels of the future, since you can make hydrogen out of regular plain old water with special types of frequencies and electrical currents. I think it's hidden technology out there, but the thing is, once you make the hydrogen, how do you store it? How do you purify it? Palladium. So it's got some really serious potential uses for the future too. But think about these stockpiles that the Russians have. It's this very closely guarded state secret. They kind of rumor that they're almost done in 2010 or almost done in 2011. And, they're not done. But these things were stockpiled. Well, actually, it was Gulag slave labor because Norilsk mine, in northern Siberia, it's like the biggest mining. It's way above the Arctic Circle. It's like one of the largest towns above the Arctic Circle. And that's where they used to have the Gulag slave labor do the mining. Now, if they were actually paying miners, the cost of that palladium that was stockpiled for all these years would be much, much higher. So once these stockpiles are really through, and they may be getting near through now because palladium demand is going up higher and higher and higher. And in 2011, they had to release a record amount from Russian stockpiles, an absolute record amount, drive the price down. So I'm diverging a little bit on this palladium, but nobody likes it that much. But I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be the big, big winner. How silver thinks you're going to make all this money on silver. Maybe you will. I think palladium actually is going to turn out to be the biggest winner. Thing is, it's probably not something good to have for survival money. That's what's wrong with it. But when it gets in short supply and the Russian mines, the Russian stockpiles are depleted, and there's more usage coming on with say hydrogen storage and hydrogen purification, that type of stuff. I don't know. I think it's going to be worth more than gold, easily. Fundamentally, it definitely should be. It's actually tougher to mine. It's actually more energy intensive and more rare than platinum. So, and I know platinum right now is less than gold, but that's fundamentally so freaking wrong, it's unbelievable. So just want to leave you with that message on palladium, because in the long-term future, it's going to be a major big winner. Like if gold supposedly goes to $5,000 or $6,000 an ounce, Palladium should be worth more. That's a hell of a big move. So it's not so crazy if you look at what happened before, you know. So just want to leave you with that thought, because a lot of investors, they're not even thinking about it. And actually, if it wasn't that many investors moving into it, there's not much available for investment, as it is. It would actually drive the price right up through the roof. So I don't know. It's amazing how it's being ignored. It's amazing.